New Orleans Saints versus Los Angeles Rams preview and prediction. Ladies and gentlemen, PFF is the backdrop. All right, interesting game. And it's interesting because of what it means, or I guess what it doesn't mean, right? Now, normally, when you are watching a game or you're leading up to a Saints game or whatever, even last week, right? The conversation is, okay, how do the Saints win this game? The conversation is, what does it look like, you know? And maybe it's just me, but this game is almost like, it is complete. It doesn't matter at all who we're playing. The actual like structure of the game, what's the score going to be, all of that, that's almost taking a back seat. It's taking a back seat to what does Tyler Shough look like? What does this team look like with Tyler Shough? What does the offense look like? What does Kellen Moore's play calling look like? Is there going to be a spark? What all happens? And as I kind of started this video and thought about it, it's like, you know, once the Buccaneers game ended, you know, usually we'll recap that game 3, 4, 5 times, and then we'll preview this game 3, 4, 5 times. After the Bucs game ended and Shough was announced a starter, that was all she wrote, really. Like, no real reason to recap it, no real reason to talk about the, you know, the ins and the outs of the game. Now it's like we're focused on a whole new thing. And I say all that to say this is, that is a telltale sign of a rebuilding team and a rebuilding roster where, yeah, you want to win for sure, but it's just so much more about the process, and it's so much more about the context, and it's so much more about what's happening with the play calling, the players, the coaches, the development, who's shining, who's not shining, all of that. That's so much more important than the final score. All right. Now, let's not get it twisted. The Rams are this is probably the worst spot possible against the worst opponent possible for the New Orleans Saints. You've got a Rams team who is loaded, a Rams team who is off a bye week. You've got a quarterback who can pick you apart, especially if you don't get any pressure on him. You've got a coach in Sean McVay who wants to run the football, pound the rock if he can. You've got a receiver in Puka Nacua, who is unstoppable on his best day, or on any day, really. But then you also have Devontae Adams. You've got a high-level pass rush on the other side of the ball. A legitimate Super Bowl threatening Los Angeles Rams team rested at home. All right, let's get into it.
New Orleans Saints traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams this week. By the way, just as a fun one before I throw this one to you, we've talked about some, you talked about Khalil Mack specifically as being ageless and just how great he is producing in the twilight of his career. Demario Davis, the inside linebacker for the New Orleans Saints, he has played the most individual run defense snaps of any player in the NFL this year at 236. Dalton, he still has an elite 90.6 PFF grade when defending the run. Just a random shout out as I was doing my research here for Demario Davis. He's not in my analysis here of what I'm going to talk about here for this game, but I wanted to give him a shout out. He has just been phenomenal this season.
Remember, age is only a thing when it's a thing, right? Like Tom Brady, didn't matter at all what his age was, right? He's still ripping it. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's still winning Super Bowls, all that stuff. Does not matter. Christian McCaffrey, when he's out there ripping it, whatever. Derrick Henry last year, you don't hear, oh, you know, man, they're kind of in the twilight. You know, 29, 30, 31, whatever is kind of old for a running back. None of that matters until it matters, until you can see it, until it's apparent. Beyond that, it's just a number. And in Demario Davis's case, it's just a number. Stud. Been a stud the entire time he's been in New Orleans. He is a guy who, I've said for a couple of weeks now, I would be surprised if a contender doesn't at least make a phone call about Demario Davis, especially the San Francisco 49ers after Fred Warner goes down. But if you're a real contender, I'm just going to make something up, but even like the Ravens, right? Like the Ravens defense is absolutely horrible. You know, if they really do want to make a run, it's like that's the guy you go get, right? Any contender, any team that's looking to bolster their defense to make a run at this thing, If they need linebacker help, Demario Davis is the first place I would look.
And he feels like he really is only getting better with age. So shout out to Demario Davis. Do you want to talk about the Saints or do you want to talk about the Rams here?
I'll go with the Rams offense. And look, Davis also is going to be a big factor against a Rams team that is leading the league in run blocking grade. So he's really going to have to be on it again this week, stopping Kyren Williams and those guys. But I think I want to talk about the return of Puka Nacua and why this is so important to the Rams offense, other than the
typical. This is the danger of betting futures. But we bet Puka Nacua at 250 to 1 to win MVP when he was on pace to break every receiving record. And he hasn't played since. Gets hurt. Very next game, doesn't play again. So this is his first game back. I know a bunch of people out in the desert who took Darren Waller comeback player of the year futures, and immediately he goes on IR. Last year, or 2 years ago, I took Travis Hunter to win the Heisman. The year before he won the Heisman, and the very next game is when he ruptured his spleen or whatever it was. 2 years ago, took Shohei Ohtani to win the Cy Young. The very next game, he got shut down, or he had Tommy John, whatever it was. So it happens, man. That is the worst part of dealing with futures, is when you get burned by an injury, especially in the NBA. Or the NBA, you have a starts limit. You have to play a certain amount of starts to be eligible to win awards. So that can be a real kick in the nuts. I know a lot of people with Cam Skattebo, Rookie of the Year. Those are burned up, but yeah, it's tough. But Puka is an absolute freak, and that's a tough thing to like. That's what's so bad about the Rams is like, what do you do with Puka? Because Puka on his own is insane. But then you got to factor in, well, you also have to try and stop Kyren Williams and to stop their running attack because they want to run first. And then you have to remember, oh, yeah, Matt Stafford is their quarterback. So if we're not getting pressure on Stafford, he's going to pick us apart. If we sit back in zone against Puka, Stafford's going to find, they're going to find the soft spot in the zone. If we play man on Puka, he's just going to dominate you. It is a hard assignment to try and stop this offense.
The fact that he's just really darn good at everything. It's the fact that he's the main guy that the Rams attack zone coverage with, which you're going to get a lot of against this Brandon Staley-led defense for the Saints. They like to play too high. They like to keep things in front of them. A lot of cover 2, cover 6, really sitting back and making tackles in front, not giving up those explosives. Puka Nacua, 91.8 receiving grade against zone coverage this year. Best in the NFL. 18 first downs is 4th, second most efficient as far as yards per route run in the NFL among wide receivers. This is the idea that man-to-man, you could go to Nacua or Devontae Adams, or you could really, Sean McVay could scheme up some things behind the line of scrimmage with all the motions he runs. But the idea for the Rams against zone coverage is to let Puka Nacua move around the formation and pick apart the holes in zone coverages, to have him back this week if he's coming back. And it sounds like
I'm not sure when this was filmed, but Puka, I'm filming this on Thursday. Puka has said that he feels fantastic. He feels great. So, I would assume you're going to get 100% Nacua.
They're expecting him to. The idea for him to pick and prod away at this Saints zone-heavy defense is going to be a big factor for the Rams offense in this game.
Yeah, obviously Nacua is going to be a factor.
But that's also if they have to, right? Like, if they can just run the football, they will run the football. And Sean McVay, love him like a brother. Sean McVay will absolutely do what you allow him to do. If you allow him to run, he will run. If you stop the run but allow them to pick apart the zone, that's what he'll do. So, but he's going to try and run first. We know that. It should be going to be a huge workload on the ground. But if they have to throw, that's how they're going to try and do it.
No matter what. Before he got hurt, he was at an offensive player of the year type of
MVP
clip.
Trevor.
So that obviously is going to be a big deal. For the Saints specifically, they're starting Tyler Shough in this game. Tyler Shough is going to get his first start. Against the Bucs, he was 17 for 30 when he came in for Spencer Rattler. 128 passing yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns on the day. He looked fine. I think there were moments when I was watching him, I was like, he looks a little deer in the headlights for me. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with this, but he settled down a little bit and was able to complete some nice throws.
Here's the deal. We know what Tyler Shough's up against, okay? Kellen is going to have to scheme up very quick, very easy reads and routes. And Tyler Shough's going to be letting it rip, okay? This ain't the game to let Tyler Shough sit back in the pocket and wait for long developing routes to happen down the field and all this stuff. Get it out of his hands. Beyond that, what's the greatest friend a young quarterback can possibly have? Play action. There needs to be a lot of play action. There needs to be a lot of moving him out of that pocket. All right. When you have a young quarterback, the best way to manage the pocket is to move them out of the pocket. Okay. Play action, shorten the field. If you're rolling to a side, the other side of the field is eliminated. So now all of a sudden you're just reading right in front of you. You don't have to try and track where receivers are, look this way, progress that way. The play in the field is moving with you. Okay. That's what I would do. A whole bunch of that. A whole bunch of moving them around. Play action rollouts, levels concepts, keep it in front of them, let them see the throw and make the throw. What I'm interested to see if Kellen does is ask Tyler to do a bunch of RPO. We know that coming out of college, he was a guy who can do that, right? A guy who can do this like designed run, kind of not Jalen Hurts style of design run, but still. He can run an RPO type system. That's something else that can help out a young quarterback. Now you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place where you don't go full Jackson Dart, where Jackson Dart had 16 carries or whatever it was in his first start, but do you allow Shough to use his legs on designed runs to try and kind of keep that pass rush and keep that defense off base? I think they should. The other side of it is, do you want him taking those hits? I remember a long time ago, one of my AIM away messages was a ship is safe in harbor, but that's not why ships were made. I mean, is that not profound, ladies and gentlemen? But that's how I look at this. Yeah, on one hand, you want to protect Tyler Shough. You don't want him getting hit. But on the other hand, he's your starting quarterback in the NFL, and you drafted him 40th overall. So all the injury concern, all the brittle bones, get him some milk, whole milk, whatever. All that, throw it out the window. Let it rip. Play him. Play him to the full of his ability. Run the football with him. Design runs, roll out, stand in the pocket, get hit. This is it, kid. All right? You cannot have training wheels on the road against Los Angeles Rams. So that's what I expect this offense to look like. They need to queue up whatever they can queue up to stop that pass rush. Screens, draws, like I said, these design runs, quick reads, move him away from the pass rush, all that. I'd be shocked if he is asked to just sit back there like a statue and play from the pocket. I would be shocked. I don't think that's going to happen.
But independent of Tyler Shough, what really worries me about the Saints this week is their lack of run game, especially with Kendre Miller now out for the season with an ACL injury. It's Alvin Kamara, who doesn't look like the Alvin Kamara that he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever that.
Or even last year. The run game has been non-existent, and that's kind of grading on a curve. It's been beyond non-existent, which, not exactly great for a team that's young and rebuilding and trying to hold on to the football and all that stuff. Not being able to run is not great. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the issue is, but it's beyond bad. It's like, we flat out don't do this, can't do this, won't do this. It's like, all right, you're going to have 4 carries, 5 carries, 6 carries, 10 carries at the max, but you're grinding out these 3 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry, LOL, 3.5 yards a carry, something like that.
That is. And I don't know if they're going to want to get Devin Neal involved as much as he might need to, but 42.1 rushing grade last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just 48 rushing yards on 15 attempts.
Yeah.
If they repeat that against the Rams, and you make Tyler Shough drop back and pass the ball 45, 50 times.
Ugly.
I don't know if you're going to like what you're going to see. So,
well, a lot of people say, like, well, the defense doesn't fear whatever, so they can do whatever. Well, it's also the same when they know what's coming. If they know you can't run the football, and they know you aren't going to run the football, and they know you're just dropping back and having Shough play from the pocket, those defensive ends can just pin their ears back and go. All of a sudden, it's third down on every down. They know they're throwing. They know, get off the snap as fast as possible, get after them. And there's no threat to run. There's no threat to do anything else. Cannot exist in that world.
A run game is a young quarterback's best friend. And the fact of the matter is the Saints don't have it right now. Eric McCoy out for the season. I mentioned Kendrick Miller's not there either. They just don't have a lot that they have faith on in the run game to be able to lean on. And I think that that's going to be a major emphasis of this team when they're going through their team building exercises this upcoming offseason. But I don't think it's going to be enough in this game. I think the Rams win easy. 27-9. That's my final score prediction here.
I'm there as well. I have the Rams 31-10. I think this is a rough first start and a rough opponent and a rough environment for Tyler Shough to get in this first assignment with this pass rush. And you mentioned only 15 carries for the Saints last week. Only 9 of those were by design. 6 of them were scrambles. So they're not going to have much success if they're only running the ball 9 times a game, especially and Tyler Shough has less mobility than Spencer Rattler does. They're hoping he just makes better decisions with the football, but he's going to be under pressure a lot. I don't like this matchup at all for the Saints.
All right, so that's where we're at, and we'll see. We'll see what they do. We'll see how they kind of run this thing. It is a horrible matchup. It is a horrible spot. It is the NFL. Anything can happen, but it's hard to imagine the Saints keep this thing competitive. This is probably worst spot, worst opponent of the season. This is a harder spot than Buffalo was. This is a harder spot, better team than Seattle was. Certainly a worse spot, better team than what we saw with last week with the Bucs. There's a lot. The big variable is Tyler Shough. That's the big variable. What's he going to look like? What's that offense going to look like? Will it be a deer in the headlights? Will it be, will we see turnovers? Who knows? But I do have a hard time imagining the Saints keep this thing within the number. Some of the stuff they threw out there was about what you could expect. I'm hoping we get a little more offense. If it's 35-20, 35-21, fine. Like, we scored 21 points, cool. Talk to you later. If it's 35-10, if it's 28-6, if it's something like that, and we go through another game where we're just not doing anything on offense, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Saints fans. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know what your score prediction is, what you hope to see from the team. And I will see you in the next video.